What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Cutlass Board Games channel once again. We are looking at some of the design space behind Bottom of the Clock Tower, and I think this is something interesting and different because we play a lot of custom scripts here on this channel, but these 5 characters I feel are very underplayed and underloved, and I'm curious as to why script makers will continue to leave these characters behind. I want to have a look at each of them individually and get an idea for maybe why it is underloved. Does it not play nice with other friends? Does it create a specific atmosphere? And we looked at the Atheist recently, where the Atheist creates a specific experience where the Atheist kind of dominates the negotiation space of the entire script. And therefore, every script is either an Atheist script or not an Atheist script because of it. And most of scripts are not Atheist scripts. But when it is on there, it demands a lot of attention and play from it. And some of these will have a similar problem to that. But let's start with the Evil Twin. I think this one is probably the most well known on account of the fact that it's on the base 3. The Evil Twin will wake up on the first night and they will learn a good player and that good player's character. The good player will also wake up. Normally they will see each other, and the good player will learn that that person is the Evil Twin. If you execute the good player, evil wins, and the good team cannot win if both players live. This one is, I guess it does 2 main things. The first one is that it creates a state where if the demon is dead, the game continues for a period of time, similar to the Mastermind, except the Mastermind has, I see the Mastermind picked over the Evil Twin quite a lot. Mastermind can hide throughout the entire game and do nothing, and then if the demon dies and there's a protection or something, like there's still, if there's no deaths, people don't immediately go, oh, the demon's dead. There could be an explanation for why that might have happened. On the base 3 script, Sex and Violets, we don't really have many reasons for why there would be no deaths at night. So if it's an Evil Twin game and there is an execution of somebody people think are pretty evil, people go, look, I think we've got the demon, it's time to execute into the twins. And the twins functions as basically creating an extra day where you have to pick one, you basically coin flip. Let's assume that neither of them interacts with any single person, you know nothing about them. You have to coin flip between these 2 people to figure out which is the evil one so that the good team can win. And the Mastermind kind of does the same thing, except you can not execute and you can execute an evil player and the good team will still win. The Evil Twin does all of that and one extra thing. It, both when it is in play and when it is not in play as a bluff, creates a really noisy thing that will protect a player from execution. Where 2 people will go, we're both Evil Twins, that's, you know, that's the philosopher, I'm the philosopher, whatever. And they will take up space in the discussion for what's going on. And you kind of automatically get put in a box and left for later. People are like, well, whatever, I can't resolve this right now. You're probably not a demon. We'll save that for later. Which I can understand. It takes up discussion space and can't be resolved immediately. It's for someone to bluff as the Evil Twin. It's kind of a way to survive. I've done it in a couple of games where I've picked someone and be like, hey, let's be Evil Twins, and it's like fully commit to it. And it goes okay, and you survive for a couple times. I did one in a game recently where it was a 2 minions game. The person I selected to bluff with me about the Evil Twin was the Serenovus, and he was like, fuck it, sounds great. And then we had the Serenovus execution and the Witch activation on the first day, because the Witch killed a player who was Serenovus mad, and then they broke the Serenovus madness and got executed, proving that the 2 minions in play were not the Evil Twin, and so we had to backpedal immediately. But it was still interesting, and it meant that I was able to avoid suspicion of execution for a period of time, because I believe I was the clockmaker, which I think that the gameplay space for the evil twin has not been explored enough. It is a play that the good team can use to protect good team players. But I think the trade is removing so much discussion and earnest puzzle solving discussion from the game that it makes it hard for people that are not engaging in this trust exercise to solve the game. It's I'm picking you up out of the game and creating a sub game with me that everyone else has to engage with, but we build this weird trust thing together. And it's really interesting to me that a meta developed around 100 people juggling to protect the real juggler. So the demon is, well, one guy juggle, I'll kill him, he won't get his info. And so a whole bunch of people juggle. There's no reason to just not always claim evil twin. Every single person always claim evil twin with another person. Just do it. Just have a twin. Just pick someone, whisper them the first day, have a secret code sign that's like, what's up, be my evil twin, and just do it every time. There's no reason to not really do it, I don't see. It's only beneficial to you against the suspicion of the good team. The evil team is going to kill anyone with impunity anyway. It's not going to change how they're going to interact with you. So it's a bit goofy. It's a little bit goofy. And I think that because it does separate players from the rest of the game in a way, is perhaps why people dislike it. Perhaps why it is not being selected to go on scripts, because when it is in play, it creates this, discussionary state. But also, after the demon is executed and the evil twin's sitting there, the game doesn't move forwards. Like, if the demon can't kill anyone, people can just go, we'll just wait. Oh, 2 nights of no deaths, 3 nights of no deaths. I had a game where we had 4 nights of no deaths while there was a twin alive, because we executed the demon on the first day, and then there was nothing that could be done. They were just, alright, well, we might as well just kill all of the neighbors to the empath until the empath is neighboring one of the twins. And they keep going through. And they're like, well, we found the evil twin, I got a 1. Get him out, I guess. And that can create a really anticlimactic final state too. So that's my take on perhaps why the evil twin is underplayed. I actually really like the evil twin. I think it's a great character. I have a lot of fun being the evil twin and bluffing as the evil twin. But that's perhaps why I think it is underplayed and underloved. Next, we will do the choir boy and the king. These two go together, as the choir boy literally says plus the king. I'll read out their text. The choir boy is a townsfolk. If the demon kills the king, you learn which player is the demon, and then in square brackets plus the king. The king's ability is also a townsfolk. Each night, if the dead equal or outnumber the living, you learn 1 alive character. The demon knows you are the king. Everyone knows I'm the king. It's really interesting to me because 2 things. These were released with the Kickstarter experimental kit, I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure. And they were both released before, they were both created before the Stormcatcher. And the Stormcatcher basically says the evil team knows this person, and so the evil team would know if it's not in play. It can't die at night and should, in theory, survive until Final 3 unless people execute that player. Something like that. I don't know the exact text of the Stormcatcher. I could find it, but I'm lazy. And so this feels like the initial seed that became the Stormcatcher design space, right? The demon knows who the king is, and there is a catch that that will prevent the demon from killing the king. And I think that the Stormcatcher existing takes away from the thing that is special about the choir boy and the king, in a way that perhaps, because I see many more Stormcourt scripts where people are like, this is the Stormcourt this, or this is the Stormcourt Night Watchman, or this, much more than the choir boy and the king. We have played a lot of custom scripts on this channel, and literally the choir boy and the king come up 0 times. This was the pair of characters that inspired me making this video, because I don't think there's anything wrong with them. They just are not picked to be put on custom scripts. And then the second thing, Stormcatcher being the first thing, the second thing is that it feels like it was part of the bones to create part of the second base 3, one of those setups, one of those scripts, a couple of things on theme of the King's Court, and a few characters in that vibe. And you can see the Vizier is probably kind of the same, right? But it mustn't have come together fully properly, and they were like, well, we can just release the characters that we think are good, and then we'll do something different for the actual base 3 scripts. So it feels like a concept that works okay on its own, but the script that it was designed to have together didn't kind of work or whatever, and so they released it in the experimental batch. And so now we have the Choir Boy and the King looking for a home, and that's kind of the problem, is that I don't think that a home has been found for them to work really well together. I think the King is really interesting because the state upon which it actually starts to receive information is quite late in the game. In theory, is the exact halfway point, but 53 is the halfway point to 100 in the way that you must reach the benchmark for it to activate, right? 70 is halfway to 100 if you're going up by 25 increments because you would not have, stopped above 50 or whatever. And so the King kind of has that problem. We have a 12-player setup here, right? So we would need 6 dead players. If on the night where the 6th dead player would die, there is multiple deaths, let's say a la Poe, and we go to 8, right? We have 4 players left alive. The King gets their first piece of information. Oh my god. And then they sleep because they don't want to execute on 4. The King gets their second piece of information, and they go to final 3. And the King knows the Poe is in play, and the King knows the Choir Boy is in play, or something. And they're like, well, great, what did that accomplish for me? So it's kind of rough. In theory, the confirmation can be really strong from the King, but additionally, the King can publicly out very confidently. The demon already knows who they are. They can publicly out and try and use that to butter trust with a good team. But the demon would always know if the King is not in play. So that player could just be the demon if they instantly out at the start of the game, which is kind of makes it hard to trust the King kind of scenario, unfortunately. And just, I don't know. I think them being so public as well means that something like a poisoner or whatever can very easily know when they will get information, because you could look at the Grimoire under the mats. You go, oh, 6 people are dead, I'll poison you. And they're incredibly public. They're incredibly there, and the evil team is looking for the Choir Boy. Now, I think that it is an interesting design space to have pairs of characters that are intended to operate together. The Huntsman and the Damsel is another example of officially released pairs. I think the Huntsman and the Damsel is interesting because it solves my problem with the Pixie, where the Pixie receives a shred of information at the beginning of the game and then is begging to be a real character for the rest of the game. Whereas the Damsel is like, well, I'm an outsider, but if I'm real lucky, I might become a real character. And the Huntsman is there to facilitate that if they get lucky and don't lose the game to the Damsel's ability. The King and the Choir Boy, the synergy doesn't feel the same. The Choir Boy just feels like a souped up Raven Keeper that just can't miss, really. You don't even learn which demon. You just learn the demon. The Choir Boy dies and wakes up and goes, well, that guy. Which is kind of crazy, because as a bluff, right, the demon knows the King's not in play. The demon kills one of the minions, and the minion goes, sick, I was the Choir Boy. It's that guy. Fuck him in particular. And then they go and execute that guy. I just feel like as an evil bluff, the King and the Choir Boy is way more detrimental to town than it is ever as good. And it is ever as good characters, which is weird. There's not very many characters I think that are like that. And so I think it's just, there isn't a, its power level is deceptive. I think it's not as powerful as it perhaps could be. And it's not not found a script that matches where it should be. Which is interesting because of all of the experimental characters released, we see a lot of them being used constantly. Most of the homebrew scripts use very little base 3 characters and use mostly released experimental characters, with the exception of the King and the Choir Boy, which we don't see very often, which I think is interesting. I don't think that they are bad characters. I think that there is play and there is space to it. Perhaps the King needs a reword or something. But you can see what it was trying to do, right? You can see what design space it inhabits and how it is supposed to function, and why it's not popular and why it's not picked is perhaps less obvious. I'm actually really curious. Get in the comments, tell me, have you played the King and the Choir Boy in a game? Have you seen it on a custom script? Have you put it on a custom script? I'm curious because I've just not seen it. I played it when we were doing playtesting like 7 years ago or something ridiculous. And was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I see the script and how the whole thing comes together. And then it's just not done anything since then for me. I've just not seen it show up to its own party on account of the fact that it's the King. Anyway, that's this pair. Next is the Vizier. The Vizier is a character that I have seen one time, and not uploaded to this channel. I have just seen it one time. All players know you are the Vizier. You cannot die during the day. If good voted, you may choose to execute immediately. This is a traveler. This is just a traveler in its design. It's possibly why it's not really used. I think the Psychopath and the Vizier are both relatively underplayed. I didn't put the Psychopath on this list because of the recent Jinx change with the Golem. I think makes the Psychopath a little bit more playable because you can have the opportunity to hide what you are doing. And that gives the Psychopath an interesting different level of play where their first hit can be, I Golem punched this guy, cool, they died. Alright, well, they're not the demon, I'm sorry about that, but I had it was the vibe you were given. And then later on in the game, they go, but actually, I'm the Psychopath, I'm going to start killing people and swing things in favor of the evil team, which I think is interesting and dynamic. The Vizier does not have that. The Vizier says, literally on the very first day, hey everyone, this is Keith, he's the Vizier, you can't execute him. And everyone's like, okay, great. And then any nomination that has a single good vote, I can be like, are you ready to eat shit? But the problem with publicly confirmed evil players, and the similar problem with the Evil Twin, similar problem with the Psychopath, is that no one wants to talk to you. Sometimes I see in beginner games of Sex and Violets, a twin pair comes out, and people are just like, I don't know, you're the twin, I don't want to talk to you. I'm like, well, one of us is good. You have to engage with this to help us solve the puzzle of which one of the evil twins is good. You have to talk to the evil twins. The Vizier, everyone's like, I know you're evil. Why do I need to talk to you? Everyone's just going to think I'm evil by extension. I'm the demon asking for info or whatever. And then having a player which discourages discourse between the other players goes against the idea of the game. It's a talking game. Literally one of the 4 rules is please for the love of God say things. And it's hard to look at a character that says no one is going to talk to you and be excited about wanting to play that character. And the Evil Twin kind of has the same problem, which is more of a beginner player sentiment rather than actual good, kind of reaction to how the Evil Twin should be played. Whereas the Vizier, I understand. The Psychopath, I understand. The Psychopath kills someone, and they go, I'm a Psychopath. And you go, well, we're going to try and nominate and execute you. Oh, we failed Rochambeau. Well, I guess we just suffer, I guess. But then, who's going to engage in discourse with this person? What do they contribute to solving the puzzle? Nothing. They just sit there and go, is it my time to kill someone? And they just silently sit there and watch the game and wait for their time to add a death. And so I think that is kind of what makes the Vizier a bit rough. Even if it was literally just small line of text of some part of an ability, and then a second part that says once per game, if good voted, you may choose to execute immediately. Where you can do something hidden, and then you can have this big swing in public thing. Like if the Vizier's alive on the final day, good team nominates the not demon, the third other player, or somebody nominates, right, on 4 alive, that's not the demon. Single good vote, and the game ends. Vizier gets to end the game. And so that power can still be useful on a different minion without the hello, no one will ever talk to you line of text at the start. Which I think is rough. I think that the second part has value. I think the organ grinder just basically does everything the Vizier. Like, it just inhabits too similar a space. It has a more fun factor and interacts similarly with mucking about with the nominating process the way that the Vizier does, but is more fun. And so therefore the organ grinder just kind of replaces the Vizier in any time somebody is looking for that kind of thing to put on a script. And so in that way, I think that the Vizier is a little bit underloved, but I also think that the Vizier probably just needs a redesign at this point. One of the things that I see a lot in games, and I think a lot of, when I was going through and designing Cutlass, we would spend a lot of time designing decks. And because there's only so many times, so much space, so many cards you can fit in the deck. So there's 40 cards, and you can have up to 4 copies of a card, which means you could, if you wanted only 4 obs, 10 unique cards out of the set. And then you go, okay, but I've built this thing, I think this deck is good, it has all the synergies and stuff that I needed, but this card has a synergy that works with the deck. It shares a keyword, or it shares a type, where it does something similar. Why was it not selected to go into the deck? Well, because the limited space said that this wasn't good enough. Something else did the same thing but better, and therefore it was chosen instead. And then that is a signal that I would use to go, okay, well, this card needs to inhabit a different design space. This card needs to do something different, become more powerful, attack in a different way. And I think that's what's happening with the Vizier and the organ grinder. So maybe in the future we will see a change with the Vizier, I don't know. But it is underplayed and underloved. And that brings us to our last character, Riot, the demon. Riot was recently changed. On day 3, minions become Riot and nominees die. But nominate an alive player immediately. This must happen. Basically, it creates a gigantic chain reaction that ends the game. And it's kind of like a linking chain reaction where you're trying to set it up to have all Riot, if you're a townsfolk, have all Riot die. I struggle to figure out exactly what Riot's intention is. What's interesting to me about the design space of Blood on the Clock Tower in general is that the official scripts, the base 3 scripts, very clearly present a concept. Trouble Brewing allows you to interact with a whole bunch of categories of thing. You have the Spy and the Recluse, which add misregistering without poison. You have the Poisoner and the Drunk, which include, droisening information or mechanical failure with abilities. You have the Imp and the Scarlet Woman, where the demon might die and end up in another place, and so on and so on. There is a lot of mechanics introduced via those characters to teach people how to play the game. And then you step up one and you play Sex and Violence, and it introduces a new mechanic, Madness. It adds a lot more information and misinformation, trying to iterate on what Trouble Brewing does. And then you have Bad Moon Rising, and Bad Moon Rising says there's not really that much information. Everything is mechanical confirmation with how many things were died, how many things were protected, who do the professor activate, and what do the gambler see, and stuff like that. And how it comes together, it lets you read on people's alignments, like the tea lady, do I have 2 good neighbors or is one of them evil? Or was the DA setting up a tea lady thing, or whatever. You can place scenarios in a way that will build a worldview. It's just harder because the storyteller didn't go, that guy is evil, and you go, oh, cool, thanks. I'll find out if he's a minion or a demon later. Whereas you're like, okay, how do these pieces come together? And it creates a different, interesting way to interact with the information the game presents. what the fuck does Riot do? Like that, right? Is this like Leviathan, where Leviathan says you have 5 days and the game ends, and it works really well for Teen Civil because Teen Civils tend to be really, really quick. If they have 1 kill and 1 death, they get 2 days, maybe, right? It's a 5-player game. You're 1 execution and 1 death, and you're on final day. And so with Riot, you have 1 demon, 1 minion in a 5-player game. On the 3rd day, minion and demon becomes a Riot, and you need to kill 2 people? It means you can miss 1 time? I don't think that's the case then. Is the intention for Riot to have a 15-player game last for 5 minutes? It's the same problem with the Boom Dandy that I have, is that the Red Skies scripts that we've played a few times and is currently my favorite script, I think I would just change a couple of the minions around because I otherwise think it is very good. But we had a game where we had a Shigenja next to a Boom Dandy, and then we had a Widow in play, which was me. And then we literally looked at it and we go, well, we just tell people the Shigenja info. A person from the evil team didn't even nominate the Boom Dandy. Boom Dandy exploded. No one had any fucking idea who the demon was because the Boom Dandy exploded on the very first day, and the game went for 5 minutes. 10 if you include the first night. And it's like, what was the point of getting 15 players together if 70% of them have no impact on the game? If you were an Asterix character, you had no impact on the game. And so it kind of betrays what's happening. I think the script tool needs something that is like, here are some recommended characters that go with this so that you have an understanding of what things work together. I mean, like, I don't specifically mean I would like that for me. I think that every character and every script builder would benefit from seeing something like, if you go, oh, I'm going to add the king, and if you never read the choir boy's description, you would have no idea that the choir boy is written to work with the king. So if this tool existed and it would go, hey, you have the king on your script, may I suggest the choir boy? Or you put the flower girl on the script and it goes, may I suggest the butler? A combo that I think is fantastic, and I apparently will die on this hill alone. With Riot, is Riot trying to make a fast script for a large number of players? In theory, if you run a 15-player game, you will get 6 days, 7 days, I think. We have 15, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. If you have a 17-player game, you have 7 days, and you play the Leviathan says you get 2 less days and the game runs slightly quicker, but you lose 5 deaths at night. And you're like, well, great. Sounds fantastic. Which is a bit strange. And so I think like Leviathan works best only on Teensyville, or in the scenario where you have like a 20-player game and you're like, well, this is going to end in 5 days anyway. I think Riot does exactly that thing. We're like, well, I have a 20-player game. We don't have 2 hours, so let's play a 15-minute game with 20 players, and just half of you can just do nothing. Eat shit, I guess. I'm trying to figure out kind of where that exists, right? I like the idea of Riot existing, not being in play, and the pit hag turning the demon into Riot, and being like, this game is dragging. We're on day 2, and it's an hour into the game. Let's come on. But I don't see kind of where it fits, right? It seems strange to me that maybe if it's for a 7-player game, right? We have our 7 players. Day 1, but there's no deaths at night. Day 2, day 3. Day 3 is when you're executing. So day 3, Riot activates. We've had 2 executions before then. And you have 5 people. And then you still need to kill 2. So you really have 2 misses. No, you have 1 miss. You have 1 miss. I honestly don't mathematically understand Riot. I think this is another one of those characters that riot happens, and then when you're in the game, you're like, oh shit, wow, okay, something's happening, cool. That guy, and then that guy explodes, and he picks a guy, and it's a spectacle. It's big and exciting, and the second time you see it, it's less big and exciting, and the third time you see it, it's less big and exciting. I think Boom Dandy's kind of the same. The first time you see the Boom Dandy, you're like, oh shit, he's the demon, I guess. Wait, everyone else is pointing at this other guy. No, he's still the demon. And it's a big show, and it's big and exciting, and it gets less so every time after. And you're like, yes, I'm excited to sit down and play my 15 player game. Oh, it's over already. I've literally just written down every person's name and started to take place. So it's kind of hard to see where Riot was intended to go. Maybe there is, some space to create a script where you seat 15 players. There's a lot of first night information that happens on the script. And then there's Riot, there's Boom Dandy, there's a whole bunch of things that will help end the game early. I created a demon called Cataclysma, where each night you rock, paper, scissors with the storyteller, and if you win, you choose two non-minion players, and then everyone else dies, obviously not including yourself. And you basically just go straight to final day. Everyone wakes up and it's final day, which is basically the same as Riot, and it's basically the same as the Boom Dandy. And I posted this on Reddit, and everyone fucking hated the idea. And I'm like, okay, it's the same design space. It's just operates slightly differently, and that interaction kind of gives me the same vibe, right? Like, Riot is maybe fun and exciting the first time, and then after that, you're kind of like, I want to play a script where I actually get to solve the game and use my information and do stuff. And so I think that the characters on these lists is just, we haven't got a full set of characters that fits and curates the experience they are trying to create. Maybe when we get the next set of base 3, it'll become base 6 at that point or whatever. The next 3 base scripts, which are obviously curated by the TPI team, are more curated and put together and follow an intended theme. We might see some new characters that will bring some much needed love to these kinds of strategies. We might see some characters that work really well with something like the Vizier. I designed a townsfolk called the Lobotomist, where the Lobotomist selects a player, and if they are a minion, they become a poisoned Lobotomist. And it was really funny because it was on a script with the Maestro, which creates lots of marionettes. That was the whole idea. There would be lots of marionettes in play, and the Lobotomist would slowly turn them into poisoned townsfolk. So the marionette player themselves has no functional change in anything that's happening for them, but they're now on the good team and would not know any different. With something like the Vizier, where the storyteller goes, this is the Vizier, and the Vizier goes, sick. I'm going to do all this crazy shit. And the Lobotomist is like, no, join the good team and be poisoned. And the Vizier is like, okay. That in particular is a crap interaction, but maybe more things like that will happen where the Vizier might enter a new design space. It might have new synergies with different characters and become more playable. We might find a whole script that is like a 15 player game in 15 minutes, but it is actually crunchy and solvable and really interesting and lots of things happen, instead of it becoming a coin flip at the end of it where you're just kind of guessing about the outcome. Maybe something will happen that will make the Evil Twin become a more fan favorite character. I'm begging you, please. I like the Evil Twin a lot. Please play this character. It's so fucking good. Why does nobody like the Evil Twin? But anyway, that's my rant today about some of the design principles of God Knock Lights Out, which I do think about a lot. This is a game that I play a lot here on the channel, and I make homebrew characters, I cook up scripts, I think about what kind of new unexplored design space exists within this game, because I believe that there is a lot, and that is a testament as to why it is a good game. That they could take a crazy wide swing at something like Riot and create something explosive and silly, and it feel like it could be played alongside some of the other characters, is a testament to the flexibility and interesting, enormity of the design space of the different things that you can accomplish, the different things you can achieve with this character, with this game, because there is so much to it. And I enjoy it a lot. I enjoy working in this space, and I enjoy making videos for you, loyal viewer, because I get to talk about cool things, and then sometimes I'll get funky comments that are like touch grass, or funky comments that are like, hey, but what if you change this one thing, or maybe if it works a little bit like this, and I get some really interesting feedback, and I get to cook up some new stuff, which I do appreciate. I really do appreciate all interacting with the channel, leaving comments, even if it's like getting the touch grass comment was probably just the funniest thing that happened to me recently, and I still appreciate it. I think it's hilarious. It's probably correct. Like, I work too hard, unfortunately. Show up too early. I love too much. It's a curse. But all those kind of interactions help out the channel a lot. I appreciate every like. I appreciate every subscriber, because I'm doing my best to get to 1,000 subscribers in this here, the year of 2025. That is my current goal, and we're going to be playing a lot of Blood on the Clock Tower all the way up to there, alongside a lot of other little video series and design commentaries. So if you do like this kind of game design content, stick around. I always have more lukewarm takes about how things should be designed, and maybe tell me I'm wrong. Maybe tell me it is a hot take. Maybe tell me I'm out of my gourd, and that the evil twin is a dog shit character. I'm here to hear it. Let me know in the comments, and then I'll see you in the next episode, where I'm pulling an evil character out of the bag and I'm bluffing at something ridiculous, and I'm telling everyone that I'm on the good team and complaining that once again I'm on the good team. So stick around for that, and I'll see you in the next episode.